The yoga cast.
Yeah, the yoga cast. That's my next podcast.
Hell yeah.
The deep breathing podcast.
Stoner yoga cast.
It's just me breathing.
With
really heavily.
Puffs.
Yeah.
ASMR. Yes.
Okay, I love that. All right, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of Send Us Flowers. I am very excited for the guest today. Alex, you're an incredible human. I have to actually read off from my phone your accolades because she's so amazing. She is the Cannabis Science Advisor for Tikun Olam and the president of the Medical Cannabis Student Association at the University of Baltimore and the deputy director of education at LA NORML. Is there anything else I can add to that list?
No. I think I'll stop there.
Okay, great.
I think that's enough.
Well, and fellow podcaster.
Yes. Soon to be reinvigorated fellow podcaster. I halted about a year ago, but it's coming back.
It's coming back. We love that. We love reinvigorating, past projects.
Yeah, I've just had a lot of requests to bring it back through my videos for Tikun.
You can add me to those requests.
Yeah.
I also request.
Yeah, you got it.
Yes.
It's on.
Okay, great. So stay tuned for that. But for right now, we are going to be talking about the heavily controversial topic today of alternative/synthetic cannabinoids. Now, you have been posting a ton about, what are alternative cannabinoids? What are synthetic cannabinoids? Are they the same thing? What's the sourcing? Can we trust certain brands? I mean, you really go in depth. Oh my gosh. But before I get ahead of myself, I'm so excited to talk about this. I almost forgot. I have to ask, who are you sending flowers to today?
Okay, so first of all, I have to send flowers to my mom. I know that's really cheesy and corny.
No!
But my mom was a cannabis advocate in the 90s. My
No way.
parents owned the largest hemp store in the nation when I was born. And so my
What?
mom really gave me that scientific passion for cannabis.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me my whole life. She was a medical patient. I became a medical patient when I got really sick as a high schooler because she was supportive of it. And so I'm just really thankful that I had that influence in my life, because without that, honestly, I don't know where I'd be. I don't think I would have finished college. I don't think I would have done 90% of the stuff I've done. So I have to thank my mom because she's the OG. And then I have to thank a fellow friend of ours that actually introduced us, Maha Hawk. She's the reason that I'm working with NORML. She's the reason I'm the president of the Medical Cannabis Student Association. And she was a coworker of mine when I worked at CannaSafe, which was a testing lab. And she was doing a presentation for the Social Impact Center and doing some advocacy work in the back of the lab. And I came up to her and I said, I love what you're doing. I have to get involved. And she's pulled me in on a lot of stuff ever since then. So, it's hard to find people within the industry that are that supportive and that open-minded to somebody they don't really know.
Yeah.
But she and I have just always clicked over our passion. And she's been so, so supportive and inspiring for me in the industry as a entrepreneurial woman who's really killing it.
She's a badass.
Yeah, she is.
She's absolutely epic. If you have all been sticking with this podcast, Maha was actually on, and she talked all about her weed wedding and also sent flowers, to her husband's mom.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's just so cute. I love having full circle moments on this podcast.
Yeah.
And I did want to walk it back for a second. Do you mind me asking, are you originally from California?
No. So my parents owned that store in Washington State, and then I actually moved to Hawaii when I was 4 years old.
Really?
So I grew up in Hawaii. I went to high school in Vegas, and then I went to college in Hawaii. So I spent most of my time in Hawaii, and I've been in California for almost 5 years now.
And so what was that like being an extremely early medical patient in these different places?
Well, I say medical.
Yeah,
for me,
for you,
it was very underground. My mom, however, she was spending upwards of $500, $600 every year just to renew her medical license in Hawaii.
Wow.
And it, she had to have several diagnoses to have that be validified by a doctor.
Yeah.
So, it was really an uphill struggle for her. When we moved to Vegas, it was a little bit better. My dad could grow several plants for her there. So we had a pretty good grow in our house at any given time in Vegas. And that was really helpful. But yeah, a lot of my cannabis use was in places that didn't allow cannabis whatsoever. And I'm pretty new to this California freedom that I have now.
Right.
But yeah, I almost went to jail actually for possession while I was in college when I was 18.
Really?
Yeah. I went to court for 6 months and I had to spend all my savings on a lawyer to make sure I didn't lose all my student loans. So it was very terrifying. Yeah.
How were you caught?
There's this outlook on Oahu called Tantalus that's gorgeous and it overlooks all of downtown Waikiki. And I just got in my car. I just got in my car that day and I was like, you guys, I was with all my friends from work. I was like, let's go smoke weed on Tantalus. And I was being a haole. I didn't realize that the cops patrol that area after midnight regularly.
Of course.
And they 3 cars pulled up, trapped my car and entirely. They pulled me out of the car, took our bong, I had the huge glass bong, massive. There was no hiding what we were doing.
Right. Like one of these.
Yes, it was bigger. It was
bigger.
It was like a
oh my
a
God.
chunk. Yeah.
Oh my God. I love how you're like, no, it was bigger. It was worse.
It was worse. No, it was really cool to see the cops pull that up at court. I was like, hey.
You're like, yeah, that's my
No.
bong.
I want that back.
Yeah. Did you ever get it back?
Hell no. Hell no. I'm lucky what I did
Absolutely
get.
not. Yeah, exactly.
That I didn't go to jail. But, a lot of people in my position probably would have gone to jail. I'm very, very lucky.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just terrifying and ridiculous. I was using it medicinally. I was with friends, but I had been using it medicinally for the ailments that
Right.
I had in high school for several years already. So it was ridiculous that kind of thing could have compromised my whole career. And honestly, I think one of the reasons that the cops gave us a break was I turned to all the people in my group. I said, we're all science majors here.
Yeah.
We're all just trying to better our future. Please don't ruin our lives.
Right.
And they let me drive home.
Wow.
I thought they were going to tow my
Wow.
car. They asked me if I was high. They shined the light in my eyes. They said, have you been smoking? I said,
Yeah.
no. I was high as a kite. But yeah, they let me drive home. And the way out of the Outlook was this really windy, dark path that took half an hour. And so they followed me the whole way out.
God.
Yeah, it was insane. But I'm just really lucky I didn't get my car towed or go to jail because those are very real possibilities in that situation for sure.
Yeah. Oh my God. I can't even imagine. That must have been. Were you just shaking?
Oh, I was sober. Stone cold sober immediately. As soon as I saw those lights, very sobering. I was like, okay, I've been preparing my whole life for this. Let me just get it together real quick.
And so, with now everything you do, it must be so crazy working in weed and having all these professional titles in weed and having experienced that.
Yeah.
We've come such a long way.
Yeah, especially growing up, I used to tell my friends and stuff oh, I'd much rather smoke weed than drink alcohol, or oh, I'd much rather smoke weed than take prescription pills.
Right.
And I had so many people tell me that's you can't work in science and have that attitude. You're not going to have a professional career in any capacity if you live like that. You can't be a stoner. And I mean, most of the jobs in science, they drug test.
Yeah.
I can't do most jobs in science because I use cannabis medicinally.
Right.
So it's been really limiting for me. And that's why I really fell into the industry so hard was I was like, okay, I can be accepted here for everything that I am.
Yes.
A stoner and a nerd.
And so you went to University of Maryland for the program, correct? For the cannabis program?
Yeah.
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 And I say that because I went to University of
Mhm.
Maryland, but I did not go. I went for my own private personal cannabis program, but there was definitely not one when I was there on an official level.
What was your major?
Communications and a minor in journalism.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Well, that expands.
it was fun and I loved it. But to see where it is now and that people can actually get a degree in that is really cool.
And I actually just got news from, I have an alumni liaison through my student association who works closely with the School of Pharmacy. And she let me know that we are actually the largest graduate program in the School of Pharmacy at the University of Maryland.
What?
And the University of Maryland's number 13 in the US for School of Pharmacy. So we are absolutely dominating that school in terms of funding, in terms of,
I just got chills.
appeal. Yeah, I got chills too when she told me. I felt the exact same way. I was like, no way. We're absolutely making a huge impact here. And, Maha did the program the first year that it was out. And I think her graduating class was 150 people. Mine is 350 and it's only getting bigger.
Wow.
So the draw for cannabis education is absolutely huge.
Yeah.
And I went into it because I wanted to see what is the status of higher education for cannabis, pun intended.
Right. And so what drew you to the program itself? Like, how'd you even find out about it?
Ma-
And I'm sorry, could you also speak a little bit toward what the program is, just for anyone who doesn't know?
Yeah, of course. So Maha told me I absolutely have to do it. She like pushed it on me for about a year before I applied. She knew it was like the perfect thing for me, but it's a pharmacology degree. So it's based around the pharmacokinetics and the pharmacodynamics of cannabis. So how your body receives the drug and processes the drug and what it does in terms of the biochemistry within your brain and within your body. So it is a program that is open to anyone with any background. You don't have to have a science background to go into the program.
Interesting.
So they make it very accessible.
That is very accessible.
For me, in terms of someone who does come from science, it has been a little lackluster in that regard, but because I, want more and more and more.
Yeah.
But they do provide you with some extra resources that you can use to dive a little bit deeper. And then that's why I really am passionate about the Student Association, is we hold monthly events that supplement that as well. So I get speakers, and the people that I work with get speakers from the industry that are influential. Like we had Guy Rocourt from Papa and Barkley
That's so
on.
cool, yeah.
We work with Debbie Turgai from ASA, Americans for Safe Access, quite a bit.
Okay.
She's a big name too. This month I'm having Dr. Amber Wise, who is the chair-elect of the American Chemical Society Cannabis Chemistry Subdivision, and she also runs a analytical lab in Washington State. So we're going to talk about cannabis testing, which is a big passion of mine. We just have a lot of big names come through, and I've made some really good connections with people. It's a good excuse for me to get in touch with those people and also provide, extra exposure to our students.
I love that. And would you recommend this to people who are, what place in life would you recommend this program to? Did that question make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. What position in life? Well, it is something that you can work into working a full-time job. So last year I had 3 jobs and I did it still. And I ran the Student Association. So
wow.
It's possible. I am in extreme burnout now, but it is possible. They make it very accessible in that way. It is completely virtual. You do have to travel to Maryland twice a year for symposia.
Okay.
So you have to have the funds for travel. They don't account that into like your financial aid and stuff like that.
Okay,
so
that is good to know.
That is the toughest part, I would say. But it's worth it. The symposia is pretty worth it because they bring in, speakers that are relevant to the industry.
Of course.
Position in life, if you're really passionate about cannabis and you really want to have a degree that's specific to it under your name that is well accredited from a reputable school, I would say it's the program for you. But yeah, the financial concerns I think are probably the biggest
for sure
obstacles, because it's a master's program. It's not cheap.
Yeah. Do you think that this is something that eventually people would be able to take to their jobs, especially if they are already in cannabis, and say, hey, this would help further along what I'm doing here?
Yeah, I think that it gives you, like for instance, the main capstone project that's part of the program is around designing an educational intervention or an educational program for a company. So
what?
Yeah, so
no way.
My video is right now for Tikun. That's why I'm kind of building them out, is because I'm building like a full educational program around them. So, thank you.
That's for you, by the way.
Love that.
I figured I'd do it for you while you were talking.
Right. I really appreciate it. A lot of the people that are in the program, because it's a school of pharmacy program, are pharmacists or clinicians, and they're using that to make themselves a authority basically within their own field on cannabis medicine.
Wow.
So that's the main appeal that I see. But it really depends. Like I know a lot of people that are straight out of college too, that are in the program, that are working at dispensaries, that just want to have that edge up in the industry.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, definitely agree that it's an edge, because we need more education deeply, deeply. We need more educated consumers. We need more educated bud tenders. I mean, the things that I've seen recently in dispensaries, even here in LA, are just appalling, to be honest. And I think that more people can just so benefit by having more knowledge around the plant.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of misinformation around cannabis.
Yeah.
Some of it has good intentions. There's a lot of people that don't talk about the potential negative side effects of cannabis because we've been working so hard to remove that stigma.
Yeah.
And I respect that. You know, that's been me and my family for many years. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
why should we talk about the negatives when there's so many other substances out there that are so much more deleterious to our health that we use on a daily
Absolutely.
basis? So I understand the bias that some people have towards all the positives, but it's also important that we keep in mind safety when we talk about consumers because
Totally.
there's, I mean, especially with these synthetics coming out that we're going to talk about, we've been
Yes.
seeing more and more overdoses, more and more people having really adverse reactions or
Mm-hmm.
children accidentally consuming because labeling and product safety isn't held to a high standard.
Yes. Oh my God. And so I was in Tennessee, and ever since 2018, so the only reason we can even have this conversation, by the way, is because of the 2018 Farm Bill.
Mhm.
And ever since then, a lot of, we had the CBD boom.
Yep.
Like, that was crazy. And there was so many people, selling like snake oil, essentially. And there were trustworthy brands for sure. Like, CBD has helped me in my life, absolutely. But it got to a point where I was like, some of this stuff is completely fake. I don't know what is
Yep.
in these products.
Yep.
And I don't know how it's affecting my body.
Yeah. We're in the exact same situation now. It's just a
Absolutely.
continuation of that 2018 Farm Bill
Mhm.
surplus in hemp. And we've got these people that have all this hemp and they're like, what are we going to do with this? We got to turn a profit.
Right.
And so they're finding ways to turn it into intoxicating substances.
Yes. And so I was in, where was I recently? Nashville. And Tennessee is still illegal.
Okay.
And so I was walking around the streets of Nashville, and I see just, those 6-foot pop-up tables lining the streets, covered in products that were like HHC, THC-O, Delta 8. And then there was this like mysteriously labeled Delta 9, but it was like not
Hemp-derived
like,
Delta
I'm like,
9.
what even is
Yeah.
that? Like, that's just not anything. Like, I'm so confused. And then I'm like, I should know more about this. Like, is this safe to have? Who are these people? Like,
Yeah.
where did this even come from? And so, I did talk to those people. I did purchase some of the products and like tried some of them. But I mean, they had like vapes, they had edibles. And the vape, I was like, you know what? I'm actually not going to use that. That freaks me out. But I did try one of the joints that I think was the THC-O joint. And I mean, it tasted like weed, but it didn't affect me like weed.
Yeah.
And it was I just felt scared even smoking it. I was like, am I gonna die? Which, I mean, is kind of dramatic and crazy that I would inhale a substance that I'm then like, is this gonna kill me? But there is also this ounce of like of wonder, and I am someone who's like, okay, well, I'm gonna try that and let other people know what's good, because I'm always kind of in this discovery process, especially with weed. But like, this is mysterious to the point where I'm like, should we be using this?
Yeah. I have a lot of very strong feelings about this topic.
Well, and so let's start. What are some of these feelings? Like, tell me about it. First off, are these substances that we can trust?
So
where do they come from?
I had the exact same wonder as you. The first time I ever saw these products was at the CBD Expo at the LAX Hilton like a year and a half ago. And I had left cannabis actually to work in cancer research after I worked at the testing lab.
Got it.
And because I was done, like it was so corrupt. But anyway, I went to this expo and all the vendors were like 3Kai and like Koi and like all these big synthetic cannabinoid companies. And they were handing out stuff like you were saying, like candy. And every table I went up to, I said, this is really interesting. This isn't, like this was not a cannabinoid on the panel I used to test for when I worked at the lab. And so I was like, what is this? Do you have a C of A? And some of them would just flat out tell me no. And some of them would give me a QR code. And I'd scan the QR code, it'd go to their website, and it's just more ads. There's no lab results anywhere.
Absolutely. Oh my God.
And then sometimes they'll have a lab result, but if it's a C of A, it's a hemp product. So it's only vetted for cannabinoids. That's it. It's not vetted for any of the chemicals that are used in the manufacturing of the synthetic cannabinoids, nor is it vetted for the side products of these reactions, which can be other cannabinoids that we don't really know the effects of as well, that don't exist naturally in the plant.
Oh my God.
So yeah, there's a really good paper about this, and I'm very thankful. I got involved with the American Chemical Society through a friend of mine named Kyle Boyer,
Okay.
who's a researcher. He used to work at UCSD in
Mhm.
their cannabis research department.
Yeah.
But he introduced me to a guy named Mark Scaldone at the American Chemical Society conference in San Diego. And he was showing me a draft of a paper he was putting together. And that paper came out like 3 months ago, something
Mhm.
like that. It's called The Dark Side of Cannabidiol. And it's about how these people have been using these, it's basically a type of ring closure reaction. And it refers to, I mean, it's kind of the same phenomenon that we think about when what's the difference between Delta 8 and Delta 9?
Yeah.
So the difference between Delta 8 and Delta 9 is the position of the double bond on the benzene ring.
Okay.
It depends on which carbons it's between. So that number indicates its position.
Got it.
And that change occurs through some very concerning steps in the patent. And this is public information. You can Google this. All you have to do is look up Delta 8 to Delta 9 conversion patent, and it'll show you.
But people don't even notice. I would never know to search that.
Or Delta 9 to Delta 8, I should say.
You know what I mean,
conversion
though?
patent.
Like, I feel like like, for me, I will admit, I would never know to search that. Like, I've asked, like, what is Delta 8? Or, like, how does it, become something I can consume? But I've never figured out that there's even, like, a patent behind it or something. Like, it's just so, how would people know this?
That's what really makes me upset. So before I worked in cannabis testing, I worked in education. I was a high school teacher.
Okay.
And, before that, I'd gone through academia, and I'd noticed that through all of this, there's paywalls for education. There's always someone profiting off of education.
Absolutely.
And it makes me really upset that good education isn't being shared, that these scientific principles aren't being disseminated to the layman.
Right.
Because there's this hierarchy and there's this, years of wealth accumulated in certain families that only certain people have gotten a college education like I have. You know what I mean? And I feel very, very lucky that I know that that's how, with science, that kind of stuff is usually public.
Yeah.
But I want to make that kind of stuff easily accessible to people. I have no doubt that people can look up these patents and understand what they're reading.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. We have Google now. You can literally Google every single word in the patent. So why not give people access to what you're doing? As companies, why are we not getting transparency from these companies about what they're doing?
Well, you know why you're not getting transparency.
Because they know that the risk benefit analysis of their products is not good.
Exactly. And just so for anyone who's listening that may not know, what is a C of A?
Oh, a certificate of analysis. Sorry.
No, that's totally okay.
Yeah. So certificate of analysis is just a verified piece of paper that comes from the testing lab that goes over all the required tests of whatever state you're in. So right now it's state by state, which is another issue I have. But yeah, so they show a good snippet of it on the side there.
This is technically not so I'm just for all of my audio listeners, I'm holding up this is a very pretty jar of cream of the crop. It's a flower brand. I enjoy it. I liked it because I don't know, it's a decent quantity, decent quality for a good price, and it claims 4% terpenes. But it has, in a legal state you'll see this C of A. But you're right, it is completely different state by state.
Yep.
And so what you'll see here is not what you'll see everywhere else.
Right. For instance, in California, terpenes actually aren't required. So they're choosing to advertise their terpenes. In Nevada, every product has terpenes. That is required.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's really interesting. But usually there's the basic safety ones, which I don't know if you want me to get into that. I do that enough with
What are the safety ones?
The safety ones, the really big ones, are pesticides, heavy metals, residual solvents, which depends on the product. You really only test for residual solvents in products that have touched manufacturing machinery that might be cleaned by a solvent.
Got it.
Or concentrates, which utilize solvents for that extraction.
Yeah.
But residual solvents, heavy metals, pesticides, mycotoxins, and bacteria. Those two are really important. Microbes and mycotoxins.
Okay.
And then, man, I'm high now from this joint. You got me good.
I'm like, hey, talk about science stuff now that you're baked.
I gotta get into this Capri Sun right now because the cottonmouth is considerable.
I know. I'm like, come on and say a bunch of really big words as I smoke you out.
This is my favorite thing to do. This is what I do. This is, by the way, this is what my podcast is like. We just get real high and then try to talk about like the most complicated thing possible.
Excellent. Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Oh my God, that's so good.
Very refreshing, right?
I haven't had one of those in years.
I know. They're pretty, look, I honestly, I can't take credit for picking those out. Also, my leg is, I was like sitting on it cross-legged. It's totally asleep. I cannot feel my left leg.
You can't do that. It's just not sustainable. That was the word I was
I don't know why I thought that was a good way to sit. I was comfortable for a minute. Okay, but yeah, the Capri Suns are very refreshing. So, and to walk it back, when you say safety, what exactly do you mean by that? Like the listings that you were reading off, like for like the safety testing.
So like potency and terpenes, I don't really consider those to be like safety tests. This is totally just me spitballing right now. This is not science. I don't really consider those like the necessary safety tests, but those are like the only tests that are going to show up for the synthetic and hemp products.
Got it.
So that's kind of it's the weird dichotomy that doesn't make sense that exists right now. So like you don't test for heavy metals, pesticides, residual solvents, or mold or bacteria. Man, I'm high. For synthetic products. So that's messed up. That's not okay.
Yeah. And
yeah.
So are there any brands that do create these products that you have tried and that you do trust?
No. Not a single one. I actually knew the owners of one of the bigger ones. And this guy and I were talking for a while, and I told him, hey man, you guys have a great company. It's huge. You're doing great. Yeah. But your C of A's look like shit. Like, you really need to fix that. Like, nobody's gonna believe that.
Right.
Or like that.
Yeah.
All he had was cannabinoids, and some of the peaks were like mislabeled or like I just saw the weirdest stuff. Like he would put like D10 THC under 2 peaks, and like that's not how it works. One peak is one thing.
Okay, wait.
The other peak is the other thing.
So I've seen things labeled really weirdly like that, and I have not been able. I'm like, do I just not know what I'm doing, or is this incorrect?
I want to teach people how to read chromatigrams because it's not that hard.
Okay.
Basically, you got X and Y axis, right? Yeah. Like any other graph.
What's a chromatogram?
A chromatogram is what comes out of an HPLC.
Okay.
HPLC LCMS,
What's an HPLC?
which is the chemical like machine that they use it's utilizing chromatography. Got it. Have you ever like put a black Sharpie on a coffee filter with a solvent of some kind, like a water or an alcohol? Have you ever seen that test?
But that sounds cool.
It breaks it into all the colors.
What?
And the reason that it breaks it into all the colors is because all the different colors are different polarities. So it's utilizing a physiochemical property of the pigment, basically, to pull it apart from all the other ones. And that's exactly the same thing that we're doing on HPLC. It's a high-performance liquid chromatography instrument. So instead of having the filter paper, you have a column that's packed with silicone. And that silicone is set up in a way that when you run cannabinoids dissolved in a solvent, which is usually methanol, through methanol or ACN, through that column, it'll break up the cannabinoids. They'll elute at different times, basically, is what it's called. So eluting is how it breaks off into the column or the filter paper. Yeah. So like, say yellow comes first and then orange, and then I'm making this up. I don't know what colors come out in what direction because I don't know their polarities, but purple, right? So like orange comes out in like 2 seconds. Yellow comes out in like 5 seconds. That's their elution time. Got it. Same thing with cannabinoids. All you do is you have a standard of cannabinoids, which is like a chemically known, identified cannabinoid from a chemical manufacturer. So it's like been vetted to know that that's what it is. And you dilute that in a serial dilution to set up what's called a calibration curve. And that gives you an idea of what it looks like in elution order, what it's going to look like on the chromatogram. And then basically it just matches it with what you run as the sample. So I get Joe's weed from Joe's dispensary, right? And I put it in my solvent. I run it on the chromatogram or the HPLC. and I get out a chromatogram that tells me the order of those cannabinoids based on the reference I've already imported into the HPLC.
We're getting there.
I hope this is making sense.
We
I'm
got
really trying.
I was lost for a moment.
Okay.
But we're back.
Basically, you have a reference for your elution order of the different cannabinoids. Then you load on your sample and it tells you, hey, this cannabinoid's right here. This is it. And how high the peak is over that time period indicates how much of that cannabinoid is there. And you can calculate that based on that calibration curve.
Wow. Okay.
So that's how you quantify cannabinoids from a sample.
Okay. I really like the goal of teaching people how to read those.
So all you have to do is know where the peak is, where it's supposed to be based on their relative elution order.
Okay.
And then just know how to look at which peak is bigger, basically. I mean, you can kind of eyeball what's going to be the dominant cannabinoid based on its location on the x-axis.
Huh.
So if for instance, I looked at another chromatogram for a synthetic product that was advertised as a D10 cart, and the highest peak was D8. So it had more D8 in it than D10. And they even reported that in the text below. They even said, they admitted it. And that's their C of A for a D10 cart.
That's so wild.
So it's not that hard to find the inconsistencies in these products.
That's crazy. And so do you think also the testing is actually like legitimate?
It's a funny question. That's a really good question. Lab shopping is very real.
Yeah.
Lab shopping is a real thing.
Sorry, so what is lab shopping, just for anyone who doesn't know?
Lab shopping is when cannabis companies don't like the potency results that they get from one lab. And so they say, hey, if you don't change our numbers to what it's supposed to be, we're going to go to your competitor and they're going to do it for us. And so several times when I worked in potency at both the labs I worked at, and several times I was pressured to falsify data. And then I thankfully I didn't work in like pesticides or heavy metals, but I would hear in those because some of these companies can't afford to lose.
No.
They can't afford to lose that batch, you know?
No. And the testing companies, it costs so much to run those testing companies that when you lose clients...
Oh, it's over.
It can shut out... Your lights can be turned off. Like, that's your rent.
Both of the labs I worked at lost their licenses.
Wow.
That's just how it goes.
That's so insane.
And it's very normalized. You can lose your license any day of the week as a testing lab. You never know when the DCC is going to come knocking on your door and come inspect you.
Yeah.
And most labs are not up to spec at any given time. Not the ones but you know, it's a lot of work. There's a lot of large government agencies that are trying to figure out how to standardize this testing nationwide right now. And it's a race to figure out who's gonna figure it out. But the worst part is, once again, that hierarchy between education and wealth and people who work in the industry right now.
Yeah.
The people that are on the ground right now are not being listened to by academics.
Yeah.
As much as they need to be.
I feel like there's a huge disconnect there of like what is actually happening and what people are asking for. But that's a whole other conversation then of like just some things I think about like cannabis as an industry. And so I don't know, there's so many people who say that everyone has the same goal in weed, and I don't actually believe that anymore, like almost at all. I think there's people who have like 19 different goals, and I don't think it's always for it to be like legalized or decriminalized or like even, oh, God forbid we fucking free people from jail. God fucking forbid. But like, you now have shareholders. You now have boards. You now have, people that come before the consumer. And the business is not structured around the consumer as it should be. Like in the most perfect world, people would listen to the consumer. They would do what the consumer needs and bring value to them in a completely like genuine way. And that would increase sales to then increase like shareholder value to then increase board members, salaries.
Yeah.
But I feel like it actually goes the opposite way.
Definitely.
And so like, as soon as I started to see those hierarchies and how that worked, and seeing how, in places I've worked and that friends have worked in, how corrupt it can get, it's really hard to trust that we have the same intention.
I couldn't agree with you more. There's so many bad intentions in this industry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a money grab because it's a brand new industry. And
For sure.
it's such a scandalous one. Such a, it's so easily put into the media in a way that people really want to talk about. Because it's been a taboo topic for many years, but we all know that it was legal in the 100 years ago.
Until 1937.
37, yep. Less than 100 years ago, it was legal. So there's people still alive today that know that it's not that big of a deal. And it's not going to destroy society if it's legal.
The government used to literally pay people to grow hemp. Like, there were government subsidies for hemp. There was tons of research. I mean, there were things that were happening for decades, hundreds of years. I mean, there's like thousands of years old discoveries being made of people utilizing cannabis to some extent. They don't know what, but they find tools that people could have been like smoking it out of or used in cooking or whatever. And so I just think that the place that we're in as an industry, a business, from that standpoint, it's really messy. And there's so much room for people to come in and sell products that aren't 100% and that are mystery materials and that aren't things that might be like of, actual value to you and your body. Like, these are things we're inhaling.
Yeah.
We're eating them.
I mean, there is a solution. It's just education. And we don't prioritize that in this country. I learned that the hard way as a teacher, for sure.
Well, that's because you can get away with more with an uneducated audience. And then there's the whole mindset then, too. Like, people are like, oh, well, like, if there's an audience for it, then I should do it. Like, there are people, okay, so for example, I have a cousin from Georgia, and over the holidays, our family was the most supportive and open to weed consumption they've ever been. And it was actually the nicest holiday season ever. It was so cool. But they're from Georgia, and they were showing me, like, these gummies they got at a gas station. And I was like, no, like, don't use that. And they were like, oh, well, like, it's at a gas station. I can buy it now. Like, it's this thing in people's mind where they're like, oh, this is something accessible that I can purchase. It's like close to weed and it's legal and it's here in this place that I can buy these other things at. So it must be something that, like, isn't gonna affect me negatively. But, like, that's just not the case.
Yeah. There is government oversight to things like that. It's very minimal. I used to work in cosmetics as well.
Same, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
What'd you do in cosmetics?
So I did social media for a woman. Like, this was in my past life. I, like, literally used to do fashion influencing, actually.
Oh, that's so cool.
But I realized how unsustainable all of it was and, like, kind of the back end of a lot of that. And I really just didn't want to continue promoting that.
Yeah.
I didn't really believe in it anymore.
Yeah. No, and it's very corrupt.
Yeah. Cosmetics. And so there's ways to do it. I've been thinking about recently, this is so off topic, that are, like, sustainable and, like, the thrifting hauls, like, things like that. I'm kind of like, okay, this is much more of a vibe. But anyway, with cosmetics, I also saw just, like, how much of it is white labeled and marked up, and a lot of the ingredients aren't really, like, they use different names for different things if you can, like, chemically tweak it this way. And then it still is the thing that's terrible for you. Like, it's just, you really see behind the curtain. It's the whole Wizard of Oz moment, and you're like, what?
Yeah, so I was a cosmetic chemist.
No way!
I was an in-process chemist. Like? It was awful. It was the worst job I've ever had. And I've been a server at chains. It was worse. It was terrible. It was factory setting. It was in Chatsworth. So it was not a good area, really.
So you've seen behind the scenes of a lot of different
But
industries.
yeah, so that lab, the point, here we go. That lab was a lab that was overseen by the FDA, technically.
Yeah.
And I worked there for a little bit over, like, maybe 8 months, and never saw anything like that. And the standards there were worse than any cannabis lab I'd ever worked in. And yeah, all we were doing was adding silicone and salt to things all the time. And I was making everything from, oh man, I don't know if I should say this actually. I probably shouldn't say what brands I worked for. But basically everything you can
Everyone's
buy
gonna be like,
at Walmart.
tell me.
From everything from what you can buy at Walmart to like even some really, really nice brands that I was surprised by. Like there was one brand that we sold that my boss told me it was a tube, an opaque tube, so you couldn't see what was in it. But it was literally aloe vera gel. That was the only ingredient. It was aloe vera gel. And they sold it for like $80 a tube because it was from this brand. That was so fancy.
Was it like a special aloe? Was it grown somewhere?
It was literally the exact same. I mean, I did all the raw material intake, so it was literally the exact same aloe that we used in like the cheapest ones that we made.
Cool. So everyone's just going to walk away from this episode having like the worst trust issues. They're going to be like staring at stuff in their bathroom, like all their weed shit. They're going to be like, what am I doing?
Question everything.
Yeah, seriously.
That was the conversation we were having earlier. Yeah. Question everything.
Sometimes I really feel like I'm a part of the tinfoil hat community, but
no, it's just science.
It all comes back to that. And that's why I really love that you've been on.
No.
Thanks for letting me get you and myself super stoned and talk about this cool stuff.
Yeah.
A few more questions before I walk us off. What do you think of Delta 8 and these synthetic alternative cannabinoids and drug testing?
Most of them will still make you pop. I wouldn't say that you're safe from any drug testing from taking alternative cannabinoids. They are, different molecules, but I wouldn't say drug tests are sensitive enough to discern between most of those molecules.
Yeah.
But overall, I would just say it's not worth risking your health to consume these products because they're not being vetted for some really toxic chemicals that are being used in the conversion. I implore everyone to look up the patent and read for themselves what chemicals are going into these products and then realize that no one is holding these companies to a standard to make sure that those have been removed from what they're consuming.
Yeah, it's really, there is like zero consumer oversight.
Yeah.
Like almost negative, actually. There's people I feel like who work to create like more misinformation about it.
Yeah, it's a lot of advertising, and I see a lot of my friends get pulled into it. A lot of people in the industry that are trying to do like marketer influencing, and they don't realize that what they're promoting is really toxic. Or potentially really toxic.
With the amount of brands that have now reached out to me for various products, I could probably be clearing 5 to 10K at least a month in deals.
Yeah.
They're pushing. I don't even open the messages at this point.
They're gonna sell it to kids and they're gonna push it hard.
Yeah.
And it's already here. It's just really sad that you can get it for free so easily. Like I walked out of that first expo I went to with like bags of it. I just collected it because I wanted to give it to my friends who still work in testing to check them out.
Oh my God. Were you able to do that?
So the thing is, testing labs don't test for a lot of the things that are contaminating these products. So even if we were sending them through to get C of A's right now, we wouldn't really know if they're contaminated with the things that we're worried about them being contaminated with. Yeah. So there's a lot that we need to do to address these products. This is the very beginning of this issue.
What do you think about the FDA now coming in and potentially, making rulings and policy around hemp?
I've seen the FDA do presentations at ACS on what they're going to do for cannabis testing and their standardized method that they want to do.
Got it.
And I've done it, and it's not the best method.
Really?
And that's what I'm saying with the disconnect between the industry and the 3-letter organizations in academia is they haven't been doing all this product testing that people on the ground floor have been.
Right.
There's a lot of R&D that goes into what's the best way to extract cannabinoids from chocolate. That is really hard, like really hard. Gummies, it can be really tough too, depending on what it's formulated with. So, yeah, there's a lot of things to be considered on the back end of the testing side too that still needs to be standardized and developed.
What do you think then closes that gap ultimately?
Funding, these testing labs right now are really running a lot of the research on this
Yeah.
front.
Huh.
And they're struggling really hard because of lab shopping, because of racing to the bottom, because of the DCC coming in, and some of the regulations, especially in this state, are written vaguely and in a way that
Yeah.
you could very easily mess up and not realize it. But
Mm-hmm.
then there's also just labs that are just flying by the seat of their pants and like aren't being operated by scientists. They're being operated by like lawyers, and I've seen all kinds of
Yeah.
weird stuff like that.
Huh. So, do you think that there are places, especially for lab testing, that have proven to be trustworthy, in your opinion?
Um, Man, this really makes me think. This is a hard question.
That's not good.
I mean, SC Labs is really the one that's been killing it since the beginning. I have
Okay.
to give them props, especially for their they have a new like classification system called phytofacts that's really
Mm-hmm.
comprehensive to the chemovar of the
Yeah.
plant. I really appreciate that because it makes things easily accessible to the public.
Mm-hmm.
Um and yeah, they've been around for a long time. So
Yeah.
SC Labs is really like the old school, the the tried and true one that's always been around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. So, check out for products that have testing from SC Labs.
Yeah. I don't mean to do an ad, but
No,
that
I
is
mean, but that's the thing though, is I feel like also in weed, it's so word of mouth. Like,
Mhm.
that is why ultimately, like, reviewers and like influencers and content creators kind of exist, is because there are so many things out there. And those are the people who, like, weren't always influencers at first. They just tried a lot of stuff
Yeah.
and then shared those things with people who cared about those things. And then of course, like anything, it became extremely capitalized on
Mhm.
almost immediately,
Yeah.
and people can pay for reviews and pay people to promote things and whatnot, and that's the world we're in now. Like, if you've seen any YouTube video, I mean, you watch a Mr. Beast video and then at the end it's like sponsored by Visa and it's like, holy shit,
Yeah.
everything is an ad. But yeah, like, that's how it ultimately began. And so I feel like there is just a need for people to be able to talk about these things and say what is worthwhile, even if it does sound like an ad. Like, now people know what's up and they can go and search for products that have been tested by people that are trusted and hopefully find things that better work for them.
Yeah. I hope people can tell by my pause that I am not paid by SC Labs to say that. I'm just trying to keep it real. Try to keep it
Oh,
real.
so funny. Okay, and then that leads me to asking, do you have anything in your bag that you want to share? Any other products that you do like and trust? Brands that you think do well by their consumers?
My favorite brands, and this goes back to their inception,
Okay.
and I think that's why I like them so much, is they've
Mm-hmm.
always been about medicinal quality products, is Papa and Barkley and Mary's Medicinals.
Oh,
I
okay.
love both of those companies for what they make. They make things that are for pain, things that are
Oh my
for
God,
medicinal
yes.
issues. So yeah, Papa and Barkley is amazing. I love that they're all about, solventless extracts.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just a good team. They're just good people. So
Yeah.
I do like that. I'm trying to think. I've always really liked Raw Garden.
Mm-hmm.
Raw Garden makes some incredibly terpy stuff. And when I worked at the lab, they would send in diamonds that were like almost a full gram, like 0.9 gram diamonds. And I was like, yo, okay.
You're like, hi.
But yeah, I'm just such a big rosin snob now. And the more that I get into the industry, the more I kind of trust my friends to make me rosin.
Yeah,
And I
okay.
get a lot of the rosin in my Carta bag or from
The
friends
homie
of
hookup.
mine. Yeah. Those 2 gram jars with the twist tops.
Yes, I do know those. I do not have a good homie hookup for that. I really want to get my own rosin press because I do have a lot of
Mhm.
flour,
Mhm.
and I'm like, if I can just apply some
Yeah.
pressure, like,
Yeah.
why not?
I also
So-
want to say, flower-wise,
Mhm.
Cannabiotics
Oh,
is
love.
killing it.
Obsessed.
Like, I don't know what they're doing over there.
I'd love to go tour whatever
Magic.
their grow situation
Mhm.
is. Like, shout out to you all. I had this white sage strain from them. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
I think I still have like a little nug left. I
It's
wish
so
I had brought it. It was amazing.
That jar, just like, I just want to live inside that jar.
It's the smell, the smoke,
Mhm.
even the feel of it, the way that like you can break it up. It's just perfect.
Yeah.
Everything about it.
Yep.
Even the package dates were super fresh. I
That's how
was
you know it's
like,
quality.
hey.
I love that.
Sick.
Yeah, they're killing it. Absolutely killing it.
Okay, so before we go then, one last thing. I know that you've talked a lot about, medical markets and medical use. I'm curious what your opinion is currently on the distinctions between adult use markets, rec markets, and medical markets, and where you think we can go from here in a way that's like productive to both patients
Mm-hmm.
and let's call it like recreational users, and then
Right.
they're also both. Like, I would definitely call myself both,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
What would you say is the difference between adult use and recreational?
Nothing. Like,
I prefer to say,
to be honest, it's like optics to me.
Yes.
Like, it's marketing. I
Yes.
think they both kind of are the same thing.
yes.
But I like saying adult use.
Yeah, me too.
I feel like it sets it apart from like children looking at it in a certain way.
Which is important, because when you think about flavored nicotine and how much that's impacted young people, it's important that we
Yeah.
put the emphasis on the fact that it should be for people that are adults.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that that's a really big component of it.
Mhm.
But I do think there should still be a distinction of a medical market, because the dosing
Yes.
is super different.
Yes.
There's just different needs. People with medical usage are just going to go through it faster. They need higher quantities. They need certain strains. Like,
Yep.
there needs to be more specific, like I look for certain terpenes now. Like, I look for awesomine.
Mhm.
And there's really very few strains that even
Yeah.
have that.
It's rare.
And when I did have one and found it and found that that was the terp it was, I was like, this is the thing that
Yep.
I need.
It's the power of knowledge. It's the power of
Yes.
testing. It can
You could have
change
never
your life.
done that before.
Changes your life. 'Cause
It's
then
so
you,
cool.
if you are using it for medical indications, you can literally begin to predict what you're buying. And I don't use strain names. Actually, my video this week from Tikun is about that.
Really?
I don't depend on strain names because genetically they're not really that well maintained. There's no guarantee that runts is runts. There's no
Right.
guarantee, like, there literally, like, you
Well-
have to have like a pedigree to know that, and
Yeah.
there's no public information about that. Like, it's not, you can't find that yourself. So I trust the C of A, I trust the chemobar, and I trust what the chemical constituents are, because then every time I'm consuming something, I know that it's going to give me at least similar effects to what I tried last time, because it's a
Right.
similar composition.
Yeah, that it's crazy what we can know now versus before, when it was like, here's a bag of weed.
Yeah.
And that's just, you get that. And I'm like, cool, thanks.
And I feel like it should be like a nutrition label where everybody gets access to that.
Yes.
You know?
Oh my God, that would be so cool to have a standardized nutrition label in every state.
Yep.
That is obvious.
It's what we need.
That's the goal.
It's what we need, man.
You're
Yep.
like, that's low-key what I've been saying this entire episode, but sure.
It's a vibe.
It took me a little bit to come around to that, is like the translation of what that is, essentially. Just a nutrition label.
Yeah. I think, people don't think about cannabis as something that could have nutrition to it. So it's
totally.
But if you're a medical patient, you know damn well the awesomine is what you want from your weed.
Yes. So yeah, I definitely think there should be distinctions there. And I do believe that we should rely on adult use rather than rec.
But I do want to step back and say, I do agree we need to have a distinction for medical cannabis. And I think that it should be held to a higher standard. And I think that it should be covered under insurance.
Yes.
And yeah, I think that it should be a totally different world, because when I moved to California, I got really sick. At the same exact time, I got shingles, and then I was diagnosed with Lyme's disease, and I was bedbound for like 8 months.
Wow.
And I was going to medical dispensaries for the first time in my life, and finding like indica capsules that were like 100 milligram that I could take at night instead of the benzodiazepines they wanted me to take. And it was so much better. I don't know what I would have done without that.
Yeah.
Fast forward 2-3 years later, those shops don't exist anymore. I can't get that kind of stuff because it's too high of a dose.
Yeah.
But
it's crazy that you have to like, I think the only things now that can get past those edible rules are tinctures and soft gels.
Yeah. 1,000
And then I think
milligrams
that's
is
it.
the cap on those. So I buy Mary's Medicinal Tincture, 1,000 milligram THC.
Okay.
That's one of my favorite products. I hope it never goes away.
I love tinctures.
The crazy part is beverages are being turned into tinctures.
That is pretty wild.
With just little, like, segmented things on the side, and they're getting away with that, and I love it.
I'm okay with it.
Because keep it, please.
There are some beverages I've really enjoyed trying, and I think that there are some people getting it right, or very close to getting it right. And I'm like, I support you enough that, like, this isn't totally it, but keep trying.
Yeah,
and
dude,
I'm sure you can
shout
get
out
there.
to Uncle Arnie's. Have you had Uncle Arnie's
No.
lemonade?
Wait,
little glass bottle, 100
mgs,
trippy colors. So good. They just came out. This is total. I don't know if this is okay or not, but they just came out with like a 5-hour energy shot version. That's 100 mgs of THC and like 120 mgs of caffeine. And I want it. I actually bought one at MedMen in Venice. No, I have no idea. Where was I? Yeah, Venice. And my friend accidentally took it back with him to the East Coast, so I don't have it. But he won't. He's like a lightweight, so he's not going to take it. I'm like waiting to get it back from him. Like I need this in my life.
Yeah. No, that does sound. I want to try it, but yeah, is that combining caffeine? I've been seeing it though. Like I saw this brand
that was yerba mate, and it was like 100 milligrams of caffeine with I think it was 10 milligrams of THC.
Pretty high caffeine doses.
I love caffeine.
I drink
I'm
a ton
addicted.
of coffee. Like I can't say anything.
I have a problem.
Yeah,
I call it poor man's speedball, weed and caffeine.
A lot of people have said very similar things and have called it very similar.
Yeah, it's a good combo.
I love
but no, I can't say it's the safest, because like the worst side effect of cannabis is heart arrhythmia. And if you add caffeine to that and you have heart issues, like it's not a good idea at all.
I feel like this is the Four Loko of our time.
It is. It 100% is the Four Loko of this conversation, and I should not advocate for it whatsoever. But
there's sometimes where you gotta be like,
as someone who legitimately grew up smoking a lot of weed,
I drank
and drinking a lot of coffee.
Well, and that too.
I have never drank a Four Loko.
Good.
I would not do that to my body.
I bet we should get both, like, our something tested. I don't know what, blood or something, but I bet that there's something wrong with mine compared to yours because I drank Four Loko.
Oh my God. Oh man.
That stuff there's not one ingredient in there that was natural.
I feel like it was just like antifreeze, like Fireball, like it's just, Fireball's got antifreeze in it, right?
Stop.
It does.
I don't drink alcohol anymore. At all.
Me either.
I stopped.
Ever since I started doing mushrooms.
Really?
No more alcohol. It's not worth it. Why would I do that when I have access to mushrooms?
I feel you. I actually did. I tried mushrooms recently-ish in life, and I've never like fully tripped, but I've had very nice experiences with them. I've liked it.
Yeah.
A lot. Okay, I'm like way off topic, and I don't even know what time it is. Is there anything else that you want to share? Any big news that you have? Highlights, events coming up?
Man, my biggest news I actually can't share.
So stay tuned.
Yeah. Podcast is coming back. I'm bringing it back. It's the Canasci.hi podcast, which is the same as my Instagram.
I love it.
Yeah. I'm graduating in 4 months. So look out.
I love that.
Because I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm kind of like on the edge of entrepreneurial stuff, so you know,
Okay. Well,
we'll see.
we'll see in like 4 or 5 months. You can
Yeah.
come back on. Let us know what's up.
That'd be cool. I might have to have you on my podcast
I
as
would
well.
love that. I don't know. I would be asking you a lot more questions about probably anything that you're talking about.
No, I have a lot of questions for you.
Okay, perfect.
You started talking business, and it was like, for me, I was like, oh.
Okay, cool. So we can both, there's things that we
Mhm.
can both,
Mhm.
knowledge trade on. Yeah. Yes. Okay, cool. All right. Well, that was an awesome episode of Send Us Flowers. I think that you all have a pretty good rundown now on these alternative slash what do you think of the alternative?
I don't like that term.
Yeah.
Synthetic.
Yeah.
They're manufactured synthetically. They're not some alternative holistic medicine.
Where did that come from that we were
Marketing.
like, this is an alternative? Those marketers.
Yep,
they're the
100%.
worst.
It sounds better.
It does sound a lot better.
It sounds a lot better. It's more approachable.
It is more approachable.
But-
But they aren't alternative.
They're synthetic.
There's some marketing that gets me.
They are just as synthetic as K2 and Spice.
Mm.
Exactly the same.
I remember when Spice was
Yeah,
happening.
yeah.
And everyone was like, like, that was an ordeal.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my mom lecturing me, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And she was like, there's this thing, and it's called Spice. And I was like,
Yep.
sugar and everything nice. I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, now I do. And looking back, I'm like, oh my God, like this is low key kind of a similar situation.
It is. Gas station, smoke shops, once again.
Yeah.
Same place, different time.
And okay, there's this whole thing in the media because they are not cannabis literate at all.
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about like, oh, this kid got really sick because they ate their parents' gummies or
Yep.
THC gummies or whatever. And then you look up what it actually is, and it's some weird mystery bullshit.
Yeah. Because a lot of these synthetics, they add more to the carbon chain. Basically, they make it more accessible to the receptor, and therefore it increases the potency like tenfold, or even sometimes 100-fold. That was the case with Spice and K2. It was like 100-fold the potency of a regular cannabinoid or what we're used to in plants. So that's the case with these too. Is they're making them more potent as well. Some of them don't have any proven like binding studies at all.
Yeah.
We do have some toxicology studies of Delta 8 on humans. We have started that, but like a lot of these things are really under research, so we really don't know how they're going to affect us too.
Yeah. Wow, that's so wild. Okay, sorry. I really could talk about this all day.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely check out Alex's page. All of her information is incredible. It's why I asked her to come on today and talk about this. It's something I've been thinking about for a while, and just seeing it become more and more popular. I'm like, hey, okay, we need to like take a step back, think about what we're doing here maybe a little bit, and what we're like inhaling and consuming and putting in our bodies. And hopefully you can take this information and make just like more educated decisions around, your own habits.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to put that.
Yeah.
I try not to be judgy because I do understand, like, if I was 19 and back in Maryland and some person was like, oh, this is just like weed, I'd probably be like, cool.
Yeah.
It's just like weed.
Yeah.
But it's not. And so, I don't know. You do you. But
that's why we should keep it out of the hands of kids. And
yes!
that's the real issue
Oh
we're
my
having right now,
God.
is if it's available in gas stations and kids can...
Literally, like, I see this stuff, like, in a gas station. It's right there. It's crazy. So, yes, let's work to make just more educated decisions and work to think more about what is going into our bodies. And I think that's a good way to go about it. But thank you all for being here and joining us for this awesome sesh and watching another episode of Send Us Flowers. I'm sending you all flowers today, and I'll see you all next week.